that break? She can't hear us? Okay. Weiss, is this good with the live stream? It's a 10-second delay. Okay. 10-second delay. It sounds better. Does it sound, I didn't know how it sounded with the microphone. Is that clearer? Yes, it's clearer than with the microphone? It's clear. Okay. All right, then we're not going to use the mic, so we don't have the feedback and all that kind of fun stuff. I normally would stand in front of you, because, you know, we're like that, but I'm going to go from here, probably not going to present from over here, only because we have to be in front of the live stream's camera at the same time. And they're going to see that's probably better. Can you see the live stream screen? I can. Yeah, so that's not too bad. Do me a favor, go to the, never mind, that's good. Okay. No, I couldn't get anything. Yeah. That's when you said check your email, I thought you meant old ones. No. So I kept like looking for it and I was like, yeah, no, everything I have is old ones. Yeah. Okay. So we just have to stay, thank you. You're welcome. We just have to stay here, okay, like in that sort of thing, and then not blocking that.
Okay.
Does that work?
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming. Welcome to...
Who said that?
Big.
You can't hear us? Where is the Zoom camera / microphone / whatever? It's rare that someone says they can't hear me. I just want to point that out. Loudness is usually not my problem. What do you think, Ms. Bond? You going to put it on there?
I apologize about the technical difficulties.
So this is the first time we're trying to do all three things at once to try and reach everyone. Can you hear us now? Is that better? It's definitely a delay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So good. So now we have lots of things to talk in front of. Okay. Yeah. So we've done live, we've done Zoom, we've done
in person.
Well, yeah, we've done the in person, but we've even done a Zoom of a live, but we've never done a live stream of a Zoom of a live. So this is our first time doing all three of those things. We are definitely working out small kinks or big kinks.
Okay, so welcome to the 2022-2023 College Information Night. We're going to run through a PowerPoint presentation briefly. I'm sorry. It's like a lot happening here. I'm Miss Prey, so I am the counselor for the back half of the alphabet. So if your students' names begins with the letters Q through Z, I am the counselor of record for them. I also am the teacher of record for Capstone second period B day and everyday sixth period. So if your child has senior capstone during sixth period, I'm the teacher of record, and if they have a second period during B day, I'm also the teacher of record.
And I'm Chris Donnelly, and I am the counselor for last names A through G. My capstone classes, my senior capstone classes I do the opposite of Prey, so I have second period seniors on
A
days, and then every day at third period. Mr. Sheridan is also he's the third musketeer to complete us, and he is also the football coach. So they are up at Northeast for a football game. So Mr. Sheridan teaches fifth period, and he has what's in between us?
H through P.
H through P. But we say all that, but we just want you to know, I mean, and you've probably heard a little about this before, that's really just how we have it assigned. So if a lot of the kids know all of us, some of the kids know one of us, but they're not my student alphabetically. Like, we interchange things all the time. Students are welcome to come to any one of us. We're not going to say, like, oh, no, what's your name? Like, you know, a student in crisis, like, oh, I'm sorry, your name begins with an F. You need to go see this person. You know, we don't do that at all. And we have very different personalities in a lot of ways, and so it just seems to be that the kids oftentimes just sort of migrate to the person that they feel most comfortable with. We work closely with each other, so we're always sharing. It's like, hey, one of your kids came to me, blah, blah, blah. So that if then the student comes back the next day and say, I'm teaching, and maybe there's somebody I talked to, they then can talk with Mr. Prey or Mr. Sheridan because I filled them in on this. Is like, hey, just in case they're probably gonna come back down, here's the scoop. They might have a follow-up in case I'm not here. So we work really closely together, all three of us. And then this year's a whole other piece. We have the STEP people in, which is all, they don't handle any of the college stuff, but they have been a huge support for us and for our students from a mental health standpoint and all that, and I'm sure you guys have heard about that. But tonight is about college.
Yes, and
College information night.
Ms.
College
Bond is
information
working
night.
on our volume, so I'm gonna go work on the slides.
Oh, that's a great idea, Ms. Prey. It's a very great idea. As we start to discuss in the midst of this, Mr. Weissman says, you know, we could probably look at getting like a whole camera system in here. Okay. Yeah, we could do that. We're like, okay, yeah. Not for tonight. We'll do that for another time. Definitely for another time. What do you got? Okay. So, we are a college preparatory high school. That being the case, we also know that everyone doesn't go to college. So what we talk about with our students, our capstone class, there's a slide about it, but it's pretty much we talk about post-secondary options. So these are what the options really are for all kids, but you know, for our students as well. You can keep clicking, Weiss, I think you'll get some things. So these are the things that our students will do. They will go into, a small percentage go right into work, a larger percentage go into work and school, and then we have more and more, a growing percentage of students who are going into trade and technical schools. The pandemic has had a huge piece of that, as I'm sure you understand, who were essential personnel during the pandemic, in addition to all of our medical people, but our tradespeople. And you know, especially a lot of our students who are like, hey, I don't think I want the traditional school, I'd maybe rather work with my hands and stuff. And let's face it, you go to school in some cases 9 months, and you're making, I don't know about you, but
A decent income.
I pay my carpenter and electrician and all that stuff a boatload of money. So, you know, that's great options for our kids. We do have a percentage of students who choose to go directly into the military. We also have a high percentage of students who go to college and they go into the ROTC program. So they are ultimately interested in the military, but they want to do it through college as well. 2-year college, 2+2 college plan, and 4-year college. So the 2-year college of choice here is Community College of Philadelphia. We have a lot of students that choose to do that. We actually really encourage our students to do that, particularly when there's someone who is on the fence, someone who maybe high school was not their best.
I mean, given the pandemic, we realized that having kids be home for a year and a half, it was really hard on some of our students academically. Right. So maybe we would say, you know, maybe if you go, you do your first year at CCP, you get a higher GPA, you are more, like a college would consider you more versus just trying to go straight there because you didn't knock it out the park because of you were home for a year and a half. You get to show your growth and you get to show that you actually could do it in a college format. So that's why we have been like very recent proponents of like, yes, it's okay to go to CCP, like, you know, because you may need that because, you know, you want to let colleges know this is not necessarily indicative of who I am, but this happened to me and it sucked. But, you know, so that is why we do encourage CCP.
And even before the pandemic, there were kids who just, I mean, let's face it, you're not mature enough. You know, and like in high school, you just didn't do as well as you perhaps
may have wanted to.
And so CCP is a great way to reinvent yourself. It's also exceptionally financially responsible to do that. You know, we have kids that say, I have no idea what I want to do. I think I want to go to CCP. And we 100% support that because as some of the kids will say, why should I spend, I mean, I don't know if we're all aware how much college costs, but beyond CCP, the cheapest for your students, your children to go to are going to be the state schools, other than a 2-year school, are going to be the state schools. And the cheapest of the state schools are going to be like a Bloomsburg or a Kutztown, where 1 year tuition plus room and board is going to be about $20,000, $21,000 a year. A real popular with our school kids for some reason I don't really know is
Drexel. Which is
really
about
popular.
$80,000
Yeah,
a year.
I mean, when you talk
and room
tuition
and board.
alone is about 65 at Drexel, and then you're adding in about 14, 15,000 a year, you know, for room and board. So yeah, that CCP thing becomes really, really smart way to go. And for those, I might be the oldest one in the room. When I was younger, we referred very, very negatively to CCP. And in fact, we referred to it as Clown College of Philadelphia, and we would say like, you know, like spell Clown College with a K. And it was just like a, yo, what is that? Like you know, blah, blah, blah. CCP is completely different. They have put a ton of money into their programs, certifications, all sorts of stuff. Their honors programs, like, they are impressive. And what students get from there is a tremendous experience that prepares them either for going right out to the workforce, or Ms. Prey's going to tell you the 2+2 program, moving on to the next step.
And also, CCP has great technical programs too. Like, that is something that if you are interested, that is a good route to go as well. The 2 and 2 is where you would do 2 years at the community college, and you, in your first year, you would communicate to an advisor that, got it. You would communicate to an advisor that you want to go to a different college, a partner college, maybe a Temple, maybe a Drexel, because CCP has about 12 partner colleges where you do your first 2 years at CCP. As long as you get the GPA that's required, you seamlessly transfer into the college and or university of your choice, be it Chestnut Hill, be it Drexel, St. Joe's, and there are a myriad of schools. And then there is your traditional 4-year college. Sort of like what Ms. Donnelly mentioned when she talked about Kutztown or Bloomsburg or Temple, Drexel. We run the gamut, public, private, big, small, local, far. So those are your post-secondary options, and really and truly just a beginning plan for just next year, right? Because sometimes we have very lofty goals for our children, and our children have very lofty goals for themselves, and then sometimes they get somewhere and they're like, hey, I hate it here, or this is not what I want. So we always try to remind our students that you are making a plan for next year, and the plan can change, and that's okay. Next slide, please.
Someone asked the question and I typed an answer, but just so you know what the question was, they asked about, actually I'm just curious for a second, how many of you are parents or guardians of 12th graders? Okay. How about 11th? 10? Any 9s? Good for you. Never too soon to start. But so the question was, do we go over these options with all of the students? Because my child has said, all you talk about is college. We'll talk a little bit more about capstone class, but the answer to that question is yes. We definitely go over all of these options. In the beginning, we do focus a lot on the college simply because the deadlines are rapidly approaching. So we do a heavier focus on the college, but
and also, this is a college prep school, so we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't, focus heavily on
But there
college.
are some other things, like in our capstone classes, that are assignments, because you do get a half a credit for the course. So we always say in our classes, even if you are not going to college and you're looking to go to trade school, we haven't got, I know in my class, I haven't gotten nitty-gritty into the 2+2 and all that yet. I mentioned it a little bit, but I haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty. But it's an assignment to do the Common App. So even for students who are looking to go to trade school, we don't have them get all into the like, oh, all this kind of stuff about it. You need to do it because you're getting a grade in the class, all right? And it's not uncommon that we have kids that are like, no, not go to college, I'm just going to work, blah, 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 blah. And then we get to be like, say, March and April, and suddenly it's, so my mom said I have to go to college, so what do I do? Well, had you paid a little bit of attention back in September, October, November, this would be an easier jump for you. And in addition, we have a lot of students who maybe they choose to go to community, go to trade school, or go right into the workforce. A year from now, that may change. So we like to make sure that we cover everything for them, so that we'd like to say that, we're your counselors for life. And with the way some of our graduates
I don't
act,
like to say that.
you'd think we are, but we can't, you know? So we try and help as much as we can when students reach out after they graduate, but this way we cover everything so that you have a working knowledge of it down the road.
Right, and your stuff is already in the system, so if we just have to unlock something or send something, it's much easier that we have completed this process as opposed to you hadn't done anything and now you want to come meet with us and do it, and we're like, you know.
Yeah.
So, the process here at Colombo. So your students will know this, and it means nothing to you, but we still wanted to kind of explain it. We use Css here in school, and basically that's like the Phila SD website. The kids go and log in. Then there's a message
You might
center.
know it as Infinite Campus.
Yes.
It's that green and white thing.
And you log in, there's a message center on the left-hand tab, and it houses like what we like to call Hollywood Squares, but it's a bunch of different stuff. But one thing that it houses is Naviance, and that is the program for which we use as a liaison between ourselves and the colleges and ourselves and your students. So,
Oh, wait.
we talked about it briefly, but senior capstone is where we get this stuff done. So if you have a student who's a senior who's saying to you, I don't have time to do my applications, I'm very overwhelmed, they are not necessarily telling the truth, because we see them every other day for about 50
For an
minutes.
entire period.
So they have time, they just don't always utilize it properly. I'm not gonna call out any of my kids in a room, but I see my kids in a room, and I'm just gonna say, I will say Alyssa, she gets busy. She gets busy. She's like right here. If I'm here, she's right here like, Ms. Price, so what do I do? And why do I do this? So, but we utilize the class to do exactly that, the process. So the thing that they don't do with us, but that we still, you know, we tell kids we will read essays. We don't do that in class, but the entire process we do. My kids know, Ms. Donnelly's kids too, and Mr. Sheridan's, we had a class assignment which was to complete the Common App tab. That is like step one of applications. You have to complete the tab. All of our kids have had it as an assignment, and all of our kids have completed it to the best of my knowledge. I checked every single one of my kids.
Your kids have.
Yes.
Not all mine have.
So, and yeah, he did it.
But we also start each class with, okay, who has questions? So what we like to encourage the students is to say to them, like, you know, there is no, I mean, when it comes to school and stuff like that, like, yes, you want to keep doing some of that stuff at home. We do give you the time here in class. But it's like, who has questions? Because we guarantee you that if you have a question, you're not the only one that has that question. So we encourage them to bring their questions in, or what did they get stuck on? And then we'll always turn around, somebody asks me a question, and I'll say, okay, the question is this. If it's something I may have covered, I'll be like, who can answer that question? If it's not, I'm like, that's a great question, and I know you're not the only one with it. So let's go over how to address that. So we try and make sure that we're doing, I call them like public service announcements. You know, when someone has, they ran into a roadblock in their applications, they're not sure how to do it. We address it for everyone to try and make it a little bit smoother for everyone as they go through the process.
So there was a question in the chat function that asked, when is the Common App due? So, and just to give background about the Common App, because I think I randomly mentioned it, but the Common App is one application that houses about 1,000 schools that kids can send from one place. So that's why we use the Common App. The next slide is going to explain, there's also a Black Common application for HBCUs if your student is interested in an HBCU. There is a fee for that one, it's $20, but they can apply to like over 70 schools. And the Common App is
one $20 fee.
Yes, with one $20 fee. If your kid is telling you that they have to pay for application fees, they're just not listening. Most fees we can get waived. Rarely, there's a couple of schools in Cali who will not waive the fee, but rarely do our students have to pay a fee. In our class, we had all of our kids check off that they are eligible for fee waivers because they get free lunch. So they should not be paying for college applications. But there is no hard and fast deadline for when the Common App is due. But I told my class, Ms. Donnelly, I'm sure communicated to her class, and Mr. Sheridan as well, if you plan to apply early, which is like around November 1st, there is a hard and fast deadline for us, which is October 24th, because we have so many seniors We need time to write essays. We need time to submit transcripts, make sure that we have recommendation letters from teachers. I'm sorry, write recommendations. We need to make sure that we have everything housed in one space so that we can send everything at the same time and nothing is lost in translation. So if your student is applying early, it is a hard and fast deadline, October 24th. So our kids know that's the deadline. Now, if they're not applying early, meaning they want to take their time, that is totally fine. We still recommend that by Thanksgiving break, they have stuff done. Because you guys know, the early bird catches the worm. And a lot of colleges have early deadlines where they say, if you apply to us by this time, you'll get a decision before other people who apply late get a decision and you want to be a part of that pile. So that is why we encourage our kids to apply early. That's why we had it as an assignment to complete the Common App tab, because from here on out, it should be pretty smooth sailing in terms of your applications.
So not every school is on the Common App, but like Ms. Price said, there's about 1,000. There's over 4,300 colleges and universities in the United States. And it's funny, this year we actually have a number of students who are applying to schools outside the United States, which they can do that as well. So those students, we go back to Navient, and those students just go directly to the college website itself, and they access their application that way. Not everyone is on the Common App, and we have a number of schools, although every year the number grows. When we started doing the Common App, there was maybe about 450 schools, and now it's upwards of 1,000 schools that are on there. So, what's your question? No, what he said, Common App itself is not due. What is due, so Common App is just a vehicle, right?
Yeah,
so the students all do it, it's like it houses an application. So back in the day, for those of us when you went to college, it was, and again, I'm probably the oldest in the room, if I applied to 10 schools, I had to fill out 10 different applications. So 10 different times I had to write my name and my address and my classes and my this and my activities and 10 different essays and all that. Common App is now an organization that the colleges all buy into so that they work together. You can fill out all of that information one time. My name, my address, my classes, my activities, my
GPA,
my essays,
my rank,
all of that one time. And then you click on it and be like, okay, in this school I'm interested in this school. And you can pick what schools you want to apply to with that Common App that are in their system. Now maybe a couple schools might have an additional, like a supplemental essay or something like that. But so you have to work within the deadlines of the schools, not Common App. So she was mentioning October 24th. It's a little later on, but there's these things, deadlines, there's early action, early decision deadlines, and we'll talk more about it. Those deadlines are like November 1st and November 15th. If your child is applying and has a November 1st deadline, that deadline for us is October 24th, and I am the queen of hard and fast deadline. I come into school, we've told them it's October 24th, that's a Monday. I come into school Tuesday morning, and the very first thing I do is I go into Naviance and I print out the list of who all submitted their applications. Those kids are the list we work from, that we guarantee we will have everything, all the supporting documents completed in time for the November 1st deadline. Now that doesn't mean someone that submits the next day isn't gonna get done, but we can't guarantee that because we have so many students that apply early. We have to give them, they have to give us at least that 4 or 5 days window to get all of the stuff that we have to do for that. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm that part makes sense now. Now,
Yes.
Yes. So Naviance is married to Common App, right? Theoretically. We matched the Common App to Naviance. So we did that so that we can see what the students are doing. We use Naviance, that's our vehicle of transportation to the colleges. They use Common App to do things. When they submit it on Common App, it shows up for us on Naviance. Once we see it on Naviance, we then send it to the college. So it's like here to there, right? And we are just the liaison. So we say, oh, they submitted an application. Let me send their transcript. Let me send their letters of recommendation. Let me send everything that the school has to offer, that was not included in the application. So that is what Naviance is for us. So
it's sort of the way the students communicate to us what they're doing.
Yeah, when she says I'll run off a list in Naviance, it's gonna show everybody's who's completed common applications
Who
on
submitted.
Naviance on
Right.
the list.
No, it'll show everyone who submitted their application. And so if my school that I'm applying to isn't on Common App, we've showed the students how to manually add their school on Naviance, and when they submit their application, they just click, I submitted my application. We get a notification, boom, okay, I know this student applied to, I'm trying to think of what's a school that's not even on,
A parent called me today, it was Bowie State.
not on Common App.
It wasn't
There
on
you go.
Common App. And so the student added it to their Naviance, it's a plus sign. They go in, they click the plus, they put Bowie State, and now I can see, oh, she completed the application to Bowie State, let me send her transcript, letters of recommendation to Bowie State. So it's really not a hard process, it just is, it sounds more complicated than it
Right.
is.
So we're seeing the transcripts and the letters of recommendation.
Yes.
Yes,
We submit them, Naviance is our portal.
Yeah.
We submit them through Naviance, so it's electronic submissions. The students use Naviance, like it's how they communicate to us where they're applying, and then we use it as our portal for sending things off to the colleges.
but it's sent from us so that it's official.
Right. The essays are their own, they're part of the Common App. Yep, the essays are part of the Common App, and some schools like Villanova, Penn, they have, Drexel doesn't, if I'm not mistaken.
They do.
Does Drexel? They have supplemental essays. So in addition to the standard essay that everyone that uses the Common App needs to do, there are a couple extra things, and they're small little ones, but like I know Villanova is an Augustinian school. It's an
Right.
order of priests, and they have a question about St. Augustine, and they want you to, do a little short paragraph, answer one or two, three questions about like, hey, this is St. Augustine's, blah 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 blah. How would you blah blah whatever. So they all have. I forget what Penn's is now. Something about peace.
Yeah.
Something about peace of what, and it's a supplemental essay. But again, the students take care of the essays on their own. They send that all as part of. If they don't finish their essay, they can't send their Common App.
Yeah, it won't
It has
allow
to be
us to
complete.
submit.
It won't allow them to send it. Yes, very much so.
So, capstone. So, in our classes, what we are working on now in this stage is applications, and in English class, they are on essays. So, this is literally like a run through of what's happening in class. We are applications, English is essays. I'm pretty sure a lot of kids have essays due tomorrow. It was a Friday deadline for the college essay, so I'm pretty sure they do. Next week, FAFSA. I've talked to 2 students who told me they completed FAFSA. FAFSA actually is not open until next week for this year's class for next year. So if you completed FAFSA, you did the wrong application, you did the wrong year. So it doesn't open until October 1st. I've instructed my kids to bring in their parents' tax information. So if they came home and asked you for your social, their social and taxes, it was because we need to complete the financial aid.
And if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. You want to do that on your own. We are just, and I've said that to my students, because one kid's like, my dad wants to talk to you, because he was just like, why do you, and I said, I don't need it. If you feel like you can do it on your own, that's great. But we'll do eventually a FAFSA completion night a little later on. You'll need to bring all that stuff. If somebody's going to help you to do it, you're going to need to do that. Every one of your children need to know their social security number.
And
Every college needs to have their social security number.
And I think 2 kids have asked me, can their parents like email us the documentation? They can email if you just are not, if you feel like they're not responsible. I promise I won't steal your identity. 20.
Yes, 2021.
Yes.
2021 income taxes. If you do not file income taxes, you will need pay stubs. I think it's like a month.
Or it's technical, but it's like a non-tax filing form that you can get to show that you don't file taxes. And if you don't have a social security number, that's okay too. We will just have you complete the application on paper, and we usually send it directly to the college so that they can still try to make a financial determination.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No. We have to get people lined up to come and do it. Yeah, so it's important when we do, so October 1st is when the FAFSA opens for the fall. So it's just important when you guys go in, if you go in and you do it and you're looking at it, you want to make sure that you are completing it for the 2023,
spring
2024. So the thing is, if I'm a college student now, yeah, I can go on to FAFSA and I can do it because I'm doing it for the spring. So that's where our kids are like, well, I did it. I don't know why they say I can't. I did. Well, yeah, you did the wrong one. Like, you can go on and do it right now, but it's not going to help you for the fall. You all right? Is there a question? FAFSA and FIA and scholarships, they're all kind of into one. Like I said, we've focused on a lot of the college stuff first. October 1st is the first time when we'll really start delving into some more of that stuff. We'll help the students complete the FAFSA and the FIA. You do the FAFSA first and then FIA. That is Pennsylvania money.
So if you stay in a state, you complete the FIA
Right.
application. It's a grant that you get just for living in the state of Pennsylvania. So as long as you go to a Pennsylvania state school, you would be allowed that money pending your finances.
A school in the state of Pennsylvania. It doesn't have to be a Pennsylvania state school.
Yes.
There are a couple states, I remember Virginia and DC being two of them,
I think it's 5.
that are,
You can take your FIA
take
money.
FIA, but not all of it. Like
Yeah, just a small
it's really a
percentage of
small
it.
percentage. But if you go out of state, you can only use federal money for the most part. You won't be able to use any of your Pennsylvania grant money for an out-of-state college. So scholarships, kids are always asking. So, go ahead.
You would reapply for FIA annually, just like you do for financial aid. Yep. So FAFSA and FIA, you would be doing annually.
There's another thing we didn't put on here that some of you guys, we talked a little bit about Drexel earlier. There's a number of colleges, Drexel, Villanova, and Penn among them, who, in addition to doing the FAFSA, you have to do this thing called the Css Profile. I don't sugarcoat things. It's a pain in the butt. I joke around with it and I call it the what color's my underwear financial forms, because like with FAFSA, you just do your income tax. You give them that information, you're cool. CSS, they want to know you got a car, you rent that, you lease that car, you own that car. What are your payments? What's the make and model of that car? Like that's why I call it like what color's my underwear. Like they want very specific information in the CSS. And if you don't complete that for those schools, you won't get any of their money. Like, so we've had kids like, I don't know what she's talking about. I got a financial aid package from Drexel. I didn't do the CSS. If you look at your financial aid package, you'll see that all the money that's in there is just federal. No scholarship money or grant money from Drexel University because you didn't play their game. You did not do that form for them. And that's a pain.
And I just want to say to our Zoom people, I do see your questions. There's going to be
We're going to go through them all.
Yeah, a question sheet at the end when we will go back and answer questions. And okay, and I got you on the repeating the questions from the audience.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. We apologize for that. Scholarship-wise, as we get scholarships, we pass them on to the students. There's this thing called the free money folder that Ms. Thompson's created, and whenever we get one, scholarships, we put all the information in there. In addition, there's a number of websites that we share with the kids, FastWeb, scholarships.com.
We tell kids to use the Scholly app, and we also post scholarships on our Google Classroom.
Right.
Thus far this year, I think we posted 3.
Yeah. Scholarships take work. But the truth is that and we said, I know I said in my classes, like, check with your employers. There's a number of employers that actually provide scholarships for your children.
Banks,
And sometimes they do that. So it's a good thing, check on it. Sometimes, maybe you have people in your family who are in the military. There might be something that, whether you're in the military, a child of a military person, or a grandchild, stuff like that, that you may qualify for.
Local organizations.
Yep, local organizations, all that stuff. Yeah. In addition to, like big scholarships, like Coca-Cola and Comcast and other things, but we get all the information. You may have somebody who's like, I can't stand writing essays. You can Google no essay scholarships, and there's a lot of them. There are a lot of them. You're not alone, because a lot of people don't want to write essays.
That's the SS one. Is that for those schools that directly distribute scholarships to those students? Is that why they put that information out, like Drexel or Villanova?
Say that again.
They give money directly to the student from the school?
Oh, yes. The question was about the CSS profile, and I was saying like it's a pain and all that kind of stuff. Yes, that is for, that I can think of, really, they're the 3 local ones. It's just Villanova, Drexel, and Penn. And you access the CSS profile through the College Board. There's a fee or not. It all depends on the information that you put into it, and they'll let you know how much you have to pay or if it's free. And the only way to get Penn, Drexel, and Villanova's their own private money is if you do the CSS. Otherwise, you'll just get the federal money and Stafford loans and all that kind of stuff, whether grants and stuff from the federal government.
And lastly, in our capstone class, we have college reps visit. So this year our capstone class kind of our schedule fell a little wonky, so it's really been impacting the way colleges have visited our school. So what's happening is there's a break in our schedule. So we used to teach back to back to back, all of us. And now there's a break in our schedule. So colleges are saying, hey, I can't stay your whole day because you have a break in your schedule. If your classes would run like consecutively, I would be able to stay. But because you have this hour break and there's no parking here in South Philly, I can't stay.
Don't know if you knew that.
So what's been happening is that colleges are coming for second period and sometimes second and third.
Both my classes. Oh,
So-
or sometimes yours.
So fifth and sixth period have not been getting the reps. So we have been saying to our students who have, who are not getting the reps, it is okay if you go to see the rep during a period that's not your own, but A, you must communicate with your teacher, and B, you do have to make up the work. You are not allowed to skip. You're not allowed to just go to the presentation. You have to let your teacher know, hey, Howard is here today. I really want to see them. Is it all right if I go? Because we want to be respectful of the teachers as well, but they are allowed to visit during second and third period when the reps are in, but they do need to communicate it with their teachers. When the reps can stay through sixth period, it's a blessing. It's happened, I think, 3 times so far this year, and we've had maybe 12 visits. So fifth and sixth period really haven't gotten the reps in class, but second and third generally are getting the reps, and you are allowed to see them if that's not your capstone, as long as you communicate it to your teacher.
But we really just encourage, quite honestly, we had the University of Pennsylvania here. There were a whole bunch of kids in there. Quite honestly, some of those kids that they're not even applying to the University of Pennsylvania, and they're like, I just want to get out of class. That's on you. Like, you need to make up that work. We're not going to say to somebody like, no, you're not a Penn kid, you're not coming in here. But so we want the students to be a little bit, responsible as far as, for their own actions and like, okay, do I want to go do this and skip class and then be like, I'll make up that work later, or I'm just going to say, hey, I want to do it. So we do like to give them a little bit of autonomy.
And there are trips of students going to colleges. It's happening now. So I know there's Temple,
Yeah, they went to
Villanova,
Temple, Penn.
UArts, Penn, local schools. They have been going out on trips. So if your student has not had the opportunity to see a school, they just need to stop past the counseling office and get a permission slip. We have a Villanova partnership, and a Villanova partner has been diligent about taking the kids out to see colleges. So if your child has not yet done that, they can certainly stop in and get a permission slip to go to one of the 3 schools that they're visiting next week.
We also, just so you know, in addition to the college reps, we invite in the trade school reps as well. Penco Tech comes in here, UTI, the rep that does all the trade stuff for community college, he comes in and they do presentations. And on occasion, although we are particular about it, we sometimes allow the military to come in. They sometimes get a little greedy. And once they get somebody's name, sometimes it's like a dog with a bone, you can't get that name, and then they're like pestered. So we limit that a little bit, but when we know there are students that are interested in the military, we will bring them in. Once we get through this kind of stuff, we just want you to know that in capstone, that is not all we talk about, but we do all of that very heavy, particularly in the first semester and into the second semester. But then we start talking about some things that are a little bit more practical, like finances, managing a budget. The whole concept of the class is to help prepare them for life beyond Palumbo. So some of that is college and trade school and work and whatever, but some of it is also budgeting. It's amazing listening to our kids about
they all rich.
how much money they think they need, like in the job they want to have, or like, this is how much money you're going to make. I'm like, wait, didn't you tell me that you want to be an artist? Didn't you say that? I'm pretty sure that they don't make $1 million off the bat, and I'm going to have this many cars, and I want to have, but so we go through a whole budgeting thing with them about how much things cost, like how much is your lease, how much is rent, how much is car payments, food, and we'll give them like, you have this amount of money, and you get to decide how to spend it in a week. We're like, okay, well, you're starving, okay, and you're not gonna, you know what I mean, like all this stuff. So we go through a lot of that as well, and the last thing we do with them is some more practical things for college life. What are the questions, like
we bring
where to
in
go?
college students too, and we let them like have a panel and ask questions. Like they usually always ask about the food, but like
And the
what's
parties.
the roommate situation like? Is the campus lit? Like, you know, what do you do on the weekends? You know, things of that nature. So, like Ms. Donnelly said, we are always kind of like just pushing for a plan and also trying to empower them to be responsible. We know that they are your babies, but they are like very close to the point where like you cannot call and talk to the teacher. So we want to empower them to like, you know, this is your life. You got to get some control of the things that you are doing. What's your plan? And it's nice that people have a plan for you, but what's your plan for yourself? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And if you see yourself here in 5 years, then what are you doing today to get there in 5 years? So that's normally our culminating activity, like your 5-year plan and the song of your life. Like, what song do you associate your life with, and where are you going to be in 5 years? Everybody's going to be rich, just so you all know. But
Yes, so none of y'all have anything to worry about because apparently your children are going to have enough money. So hopefully they'll take care of you.
retire everybody in the room.
Go ahead, Weiss.
So the question was about scholarships. So scholarships work in different forms. Some scholarships, they will issue a check directly to you. Some scholarships, they send to the college, and then it's on the college to add it to your financial aid. And if it's money left over, it's issued to you. So those are generally how they work. So either it's issued directly to you or it's issued to your college on your behalf. Well, some scholarships are like renewable, like, oh, this scholarship is renewable every year. Or some scholarships, this is just a one-off, it's a one-time scholarship. It just depends on what kind of scholarship you apply for. So a lot of like small scholarships, they are like one-offs, like you do it once, you get the scholarship, you get the money. And then sometimes
You just have to show them an acceptance letter to a college or like to a school. And if you show them the acceptance letter, then they'll give you the check. Oh, no,
yeah,
no, no.
no, you won't run
You're
into
okay. You're okay. It won't expire. You'll be all right. Yeah, no, you're okay. I wouldn't hang on to it for like a year or two because that check might expire. I'll tell you that. But you know, so I actually think we kind of covered this. We talked about the Common App and the purposes of that. Anybody, you know, I think we're good with that. And the historically black colleges and universities. That's the blackcommonapp.com. Like we said, that is a $120, $25 fee. You can apply to 65 HBCUs. Now I will tell you, as I say to my students, what I like to call the big four of HBCUs are not on there. So there's no Morehouse, there's no Spelman, there's no Howard, and there's no Hampton.
But
those four schools
they
are not
are
on there,
on
but they're
Common
all on
App,
the
though.
Common App. But they're not on the HBCU Common
But
App.
some of the popular schools like Dell State, Morgan State, Lincoln, schools like those schools are there.
Yeah, Lincoln, Cheney, a lot of stuff. Okay, that was. Gotta get a clicker.
Okay, so we touched bases, but this is just the language. So early decision is a binding contract, right? Most schools it's a binding contract pending finances. Well, that's the caveat. So it means that you forfeit your ability to apply to other schools if you get accepted to a school early decision. So one that you guys will be familiar with is the University of Penn. The University of Penn, if your kid is applying there, they encourage Philadelphia students to apply early decision because they say, you know, it's a much smaller pool, they have a better shot of being accepted. So basically, if you apply to the University of Penn and you get accepted, you forfeit all of your other applications, meaning regardless of what Kutztown said they were going to do for you, you got into Penn, you're going, okay? That is it's a binding contract. You are committed to that. Early action usually carries a very early deadline as well, but it's not a binding contract. It just means that you got your application in early, so because you got it in early, the university has committed to giving you a decision before they look at other applicants. So if you got yours in by November 15th, you got a 3.0, you got 1,000 on your SAT, but I got mine in December 1st, and I got a 4.0, and I got a 1,300 on my SAT. Before they ever even look at my application to know my information, you've got a decision. So this is the deadline that we generally encourage our kids to apply by, because the early bird catches the worm, right? Like if you get it in early, you got a better chance than somebody who may be a better student if they got it in late.
It's a reward for getting all your stuff together, you know, for being on top of your game and getting all your stuff in.
Restrictive early action is a newer one, and basically we've recently learned about this when Ivy League schools have come in to visit. So it's very similar to early decision, except for it's not a binding contract, but you do forfeit your ability to apply to other schools if you get accepted early restrictions. So a school that came in and talked about it was Princeton, and then Yale also said that they have restrictive early action.
Yeah, so with those two, the early decision and the restrictive early action, if you apply via that and you get accepted, you have to withdraw your other applications. And like this is where you're gonna. No. Oh, yes. Prior to knowing financially.
Well,
so most of the schools. So the kids do it like Penn. Our kids, historically, the school district. University of Pennsylvania makes it very clear that the Philadelphia School District kids have a better chance of getting in early decision than they do any regular decision. It's a smaller pool.
Well, I think your question is why would you do it?
But this is what I was going to say, because they
financially.
usually cover the gap. We've never had anybody, I don't think we've ever had anybody get accepted early decision and not be able to go because they didn't have the money. So they cover that gap. Like they're like, okay, here it is. You're like, oh, I can't pay that. They work with the families to cover the financial gap between what they initially said to you and what you have.
So tuition is like $85,000, not tuition, but tuition room and board is $85,000. You get this little $10,000 in financial aid, so you got a $75,000 gap. What do? You go ask your mom. Your mom is like, "Are you crazy?" Right? And then you try to figure it out, and then you come back and you go to the university and you say, "Hey, I really want to commit to this school. I just don't have this kind of money." They say, "Okay," and they usually put together money for you in the form of grants. The Ivy League schools, not everybody else. Everybody else is going to say, they have bigger endowments, right? And so that is why people generally will do it, because they meet the need.
But the students apply because they know they have a better chance of getting in early decision.
Yeah, it's their dream,
but like as
right?
I just said to kids in my class, I had a boy who was like, yeah, I can't decide if I want to apply early decision to Villanova or early decision to Penn. I said, then you don't want to apply early decision anywhere. Early decision is not I'm not sure which. Early decision is this is the school I want to go to. And if I get in, I'm going. Like this is where you guys, some of you guys will get it. I've always said like it's like Rudy, the movie Rudy, where it's like that kid was all about Notre Dame. You cut him open, he bleeds, Notre Dame gold and green and that kind of stuff. And like that's really like where the early decision. It's my dream school. I get in here, this is where I'm going. I think.
So the bulk of our kids, like I said, we encourage early action, right? It's not a binding contract. You got a list of schools you want to get accepted to. You'd be fine with getting accepted to any 3 of these schools, pending a financial aid. You'd be fine with going to any of those schools. Priority deadline is one that we don't see as much anymore.
Penn State is always the one that does that.
Yeah. And so basically what a priority deadline, and the deadline is what,
November 30th.
November 30th.
Yeah.
And basically what that means is as long as you get it in by that date, they make it a priority to give you a decision. So
like November 30th is Penn State's priority deadline. So that means they will look at every application received by November 30th and make a decision before they will go to someone who they received December 1st.
Right.
They'll make a decision on everyone that's there.
And then the last one is rolling admission. And a lot of schools are rolling admission, and that just means that they just keep rolling. It just keeps accepting people until they get full. So if the freshman class needs to have 3,400 kids, we just keep accepting until we hit 3,400. So we might hit 3,400 in January, we might hit 3,400 in July. My advice would be, if you really want to go there, you want to be a part of the January kids, because if it gets to July and you 3,401, you don't get in.
Yeah, I use the analogy a lot of times about like an open window for rolling admission. The window's this big now. The window starts to close. So that same student, we could be the same kids, and you know, I have a 3.1, and Pray's got a 3.6, or maybe we're both the same. I got 3.1, she's got 3.1. I apply in December, I get into Temple. She applies, same exact stuff I have, but she applies in March. Well, in March, the window's this big. So now they get to say, well, wait a minute, I'm gonna pick this kid that's a 3.8, I'm not taking a 3.1. So we always encourage the students, earlier the better. That is your better opportunity, particularly if that's the school you really wanna go to and you feel like your application isn't maybe as strong, like with their criteria, you're not really solidly in there. You wanna try and get that early stuff in there.
I don't know why this popped in my head, but if you live in North Philadelphia and you apply to Temple, there's a scholarship available right now for North Philadelphia residents. It just popped in my head, so if that is your situation, come see one of us tomorrow and we can help you apply for that scholarship.
You can go to the next one, please. All right, the SATs. Just click through that whole thing. We will be hosting, started a couple years ago, the school district, we will be hosting the SAT, School Day SAT on October 12th. All of our students, all of our seniors will take it on that day. That same day, 9th graders are gonna take the PSAT 8-9. 2 weeks later, the 10th and 11th graders are gonna take the PSAT. And if they say something, you hear them say something to you like, I don't need to be in school at 8 o'clock, that's a true statement. So on the day, on the 12th, that's 12th grade and 9th grade taking that test. 10th and 11th grade report at 12 o'clock.
11.
11 o'clock?
Yes.
She says, she corrects me every time on that, you'd think I'd remember. And then on the 25th is the day the 10th and 11th graders take the test. The 9th and 12th graders report at 11 o'clock on that day. And that's all free. So in addition to that, all students, because they have free lunch, they are entitled to 2 other SAT fee waivers if they are so inclined to take the SAT. We also have ACT fee waivers. We still do this. We recommend to take a minimum twice. I'm not gonna be honest with you. Life has changed dramatically for all of us since the pandemic. The year of the pandemic when we were virtual, there were no SATs. Unless you were in Florida. That was the only state, I think, that just kept wanting SATs. And it really changed the landscape of accepting students. Ironically enough, that year was our highest number of students accepted to Penn. We had 9 that year. So it was interesting. Usually we get about 4. And it was interesting that once they waived the SAT, suddenly our students, because typically our students don't do that great in standardized tests. Many schools are still test optional. So a lot of the kids are they hate standardized tests, and they are looking to apply to schools that are just test optional. What test optional means, I think there's a slide about this, is that you can opt to not submit your standardized test scores to the colleges. They have sworn to us that if I apply test optional, that it is not gonna hurt my application. I will tell you how we look at it. If a student's like, I'm not really sure, we'll look and see, well, what's the school? We'll see what their SAT score is, if they've taken it, or after they take it in October. If we don't think, and this is our thing about like, should you go test optional or not? If your SAT score does not augment or add to your application, then we're gonna say, yeah, don't send that in. If you have a 4.0 or a 4.2 or something like that, and your SAT is 1,000, we're gonna say, yeah, don't send that in there. But if you have, a really solid GPA, and maybe you got a 1200 or a 1300 or a 1400. We had a kid last year who wasn't submitting his 1360 to Drexel. I'm like, why? He's like, well, because their average. I was like, no. A 1360 helps your application. It reinforces how you've done in school. So we sort of look at it that way. The students, when you take the SATs, they are your score. You choose whether or not you want the school to get them or not. We do not. They don't belong to us.
Yeah, we do not send SAT scores.
Right. We do not send those
Students
scores.
send them from their College Board accounts if they choose to do so.
So that's sort of just the whole standardized. We encourage everybody to take them, to show up on October 12th, the seniors. They're like, well, I don't really care. Sometimes you can do better just because there's no pressure. You're taking it in your own school. It's the whole reason the school district foots the bill for it, for every high school in the district. It's because they know sometimes the students can do better in their own environment, like in their home, with friends, with all that kind of stuff. But so they can take the SATs. Some of them already took them. They took them in June and August. We've had a couple that did that, and then they can take them again in October. Oh, and then yeah, after October they'll take it here, but then they can opt to take it in November and December. Sometimes some seniors might take it in January, but that gets to start to be a little bit late for applying to colleges.
Thank you.
God bless. So that's what I have. So, but do I have to take the test?
You
So that's
skip
about
it.
the test optional concept. That is a website that was back there where it lists what the policies are. We help the kids looking it up to what the policies are for each individual school about whether or not some of them have waived SAT tests through 2025. Some of them the incoming class is the last class that they're waiving it, and then they're gonna reassess what it is. Honestly, some of the schools like Penn, they're waiting to see how that group does. How that group that had no SATs, they're doing a whole comparative thing to see how are they doing in school, and is that something that do the students that we're getting perform as well or better than the students when we selected with the SATs. Go ahead, Nicole. Oh, wait. So we talked a little bit about this. So what if I don't want to go to college? That whole concept about trade schools or the military. Whether it is carpentry, electrical, all the stuff that's up there, plumbing, heating. We have a growing number of students who want to go into like radiology, ultrasound tech, that kind of thing, which is a great field, particularly if you have a wonderful personality. Most especially if you have a wonderful personality.
And CCP has a really great
CCP
program.
has a great program for radiology, so that's a good option for a lot of our students. We talked about the military and students doing that. Let's talk about the gap year for a minute. That is becoming more and more popular. Sometimes gap year seems code for I'm done.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
I'm taking a gap year, which means I don't want to do anything. I'm just gonna go work my job at Dunkin' Donuts or Chick-fil-A or wherever, and I am all schooled out.
And I just, in full transparency, if it's not a legitimate reason, I always discourage students. If it's not like you need to work because you want to save money for school or something like that, one thing that I recognize is that, a lot of young people are driven by money, right? So if they have a job and they decide to take a gap year, they get stuck because they think that the little bit of money that they're making at the job is big money, right? And it's big at 18, but it's not big at 20, right? So we discourage the gap year unless it's a legitimate reason. Like if you need to work to save money for school, by all means do so. But if you just think you need to take a gap year because your brain is tired, it is going to be really hard to get back into the practice or the habit of going to school.
We encourage students who are just like, listen, I really, really need that break. We do encourage them to even just take one class at CCP. Like, keep your toe in the door of education. Because once you step away from it, it gets harder and harder to get yourself motivated to get back in there.
And as life is happening.
Sure.
Right? So we do discourage it if we sit down and talk. And we have sat down and talked to kids who have plans. They are taking a gap year because they are going to go somewhere and do something, and they got this whole thing. And it's like, okay, you have a plan, and it's legit. I talked to your parent, I talked to you,
Right.
You guys are really doing this. So yes, but if it's just like, oh, I need a brain break or something like that, like Ms. Donnelly said, we also say like, oh, well, just take one class at CCP.
Right.
Just do something educationally.
Or instead of just, working, do something like City Year or Job Corps or something like that where it's not going to be that taxing, I'm sitting in a classroom. I mean, it was particular through the pandemic. I mean, we all know, sitting at home, that little screen, all that kind of stuff, it was hard on us. It was really hard on the kids, and they were just like, I'm fried. I don't want to do this anymore. But we do want them to try and still think a little bit outside, like forward thinking. What is my plan to do? And is it just, and there's nothing wrong with saying, I just want to work, and that's great. But we all know, as adults, no offense to the kids here, but we all know that with just a high school diploma, it is getting harder and harder and harder to have a job. Oftentimes, it doesn't even matter what your degree is in, so long as you have a degree. I mean, you look at job descriptions now, and it just says college degree. It doesn't even say what it has to be in, college degree.
And one thing that I think we have seen over the past couple of years, we have had students who are going pro in gaming. It is a thing.
We did have that.
So when our kids are saying, like, if they are really, really good at it. And you know if you're really good because you like ranking somewhere at the top. You're not just playing for fun, right? It's like a thing. That is a thing too. So if your kid is telling you that and you know you don't believe them, it's possible. We had kids go pro too, like.
He didn't come to graduation because the moment it was done, he was actually drafted number 3. There's a draft. I don't know if you knew this. There is a virtual gaming draft. And he was drafted number 3 in the world. And he immediately had to fly out to California because he was drafted from some California gaming team.
And we had
Makes more money than I'll ever make for sure, playing video games.
Yeah, we had another student who was drafted into like fantasy, I don't know what it's called, 2K.
Yeah.
But he like had the hat, did the YouTube, signed, and it was like, it's a thing. So that is, I can't think of his name.
I can't remember his name.
But yes, that has happened here.
Video game, and honestly, guys, game design, you know, again, I'm old, and what it used to be, you know, we're just like, oh, that's stupid. It's not going anywhere. All that stuff is not going anywhere, and it is a legitimate growing field these days. So you got kids that are interested in that, more power to them. You know, we got our computer guy right back here, Mr. Weissman, and the growth and interest in his computer science class is exponential. It is absolutely, positively unbelievable. There are students that are interested in computer science and that whole tech piece, the coding, the how do I make the games, all that kind of stuff. It's really, it's amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Good, Weiss.
I think this might have been.
Oh, yeah.
Just so
Okay,
you-
go. We need to get through the questions.
Yes, just so you have a point of contact, here's our email address, the best way to reach any of us. Go ahead. So it, most of them should have, if they are in AP classes, it's set up. Yeah, because they need to be a part of our College Board in order to access their AP classrooms. In 10th too. So they should, and if they have taken a PSAT to access their scores, they had to create an account. So they should have College Board accounts before they get to us. But if they don't, we can help them with that. But yes.
Good. So the discussion for everybody that's at home is about, like, do they have to create accounts for a College Board and stuff like that? If you take an AP class, you've already created the account. It's the only way you can get into, like, the AP class and all that kind of stuff. And once you do that, then a lot of times you start getting, and you'll start getting all the college stuff too. Big time. I had a 10th grader come in to me today, show me her cell phone, and she's like, "What is this legit?" She had at least 7 different colleges that are emailing her in the 10th grade. And I'm finding, I think, more and more colleges are now starting to recruit. Like, they're losing kids. Colleges have been losing kids left and right since the pandemic, and they're really trying to get them back. So they're reaching out to them earlier and earlier to try and hook them in. And they're all things about, like, oh, listen, we'd
love to connect
We'd love to
with you.
connect with you. Why don't you come to our online tour, or what, this kind of stuff. We tell all the students, if you have any questions about something you receive, you're not sure about the legitimacy, feel free to come in and check. I will tell you all right now 2 of them. Number 1, the National High School Honor Society, National School of High School, something like that. NHSHS, crap.
It is a real thing, but you don't need to pay to be a part of it.
Right. And schools know that you basically are paying. No, National Honor Society is a very rare thing. That's not the same thing. So we have a National Honor Society that students are invited to apply to.
No,
that is
it's
not
the
what that
National
program
Honor
is.
Society of High School Scholars.
That's what it
something
is.
Like that.
You'll see it on the back of people's cars. They'll have a sticker. It says, like, my child proud. I'm good. I'm happy for you. Basically, that means you bought money to buy that sticker. And colleges know that too. So that one's not worth it. Any of the leadership, National Leadership Forum, excellent programs, but very expensive. We've had students do them. Maybe they're, a couple of them, their youth group, their church, help to raise money for them. Excellent, excellent programs, but they do cost a lot of money. And the only other thing I would say that you want to shy away from is anybody that emails you or reaches out to you and say that they are a financial
And they can get you more
consultant,
money for college.
and they can get you more money for college. Every college rep has said to us, every financial aid person has said, they can't get you any more money from them than they would already have given you. But this is what they will do is do your financial aid stuff for you. So if it's worth it for you to spend $900 to have someone fill out your FAFSA and all of that, by all means, enjoy that.
But, and just so you know, like the first FAFSA stands for free application for federal student aid, right? So it shouldn't cost you $900 to do something that starts with the word free. Yes.
Exactly. Okay, so questions, if you guys have questions, it's cool. I'm gonna start going through. This is where we started. Are we covering all these options with the students? I've asked my senior what he learned. They said there was only college talk. So we talked about that. We are focusing very much on the college stuff presently, but we still throw in the trade school, the community college, that kind of stuff. We will do more of that later.
From UTI today. He'll be in it the first week in November. I talked to him earlier today. And we've actually, Sergeant Ty emailed and asked when he could come as well.
Did he already come?
He asked.
Sergeant Ty is, my one military guy that I trust. So we reach out to him. He's from the National Guard, but he has earned his stripes to be allowed to come in here because I trust him. He doesn't pester students. He doesn't, when a student says no, he says, okay, thank you very much. Some of the other ones are a little bit more aggressive. Looks like a whole lot of 12th grade parents online. Question, do we help kids with Common App? I hope, Stephanie, that we answered that for you. We definitely help them through that. We do that in capstone class, individually if a student has questions, as well as going through it with everybody. Common App we answered that one. All right, what do you suggest for a student who just doesn't know what he wants to study in college? He just doesn't know, so applying for a program is challenging. Undecided.
Yes, if we gave you the impression that you need to know, that was not our intention. It's okay to be undecided. I went to school undecided. I was going to be a radio DJ. I liked music, I liked the radio, and I was just going to be great at it. I got to college, I got on the local radio station, WXVU. I went to Villanova. They put me on the morning show. It was horrible. I cried, I quit. I realized that there was not my lot in life. So you do not have to know what you want to do. You just have to have interest in something so you can weed things out, right? I felt like I learned more about what I didn't like than what I did like, and I kind of like fell into like, oh, okay, this is cool. So you don't have to know. Being undecided is perfectly fine.
In the beginning, mostly everyone takes general electives anyway. You know, the ones that really go dive in right away is nursing. And oftentimes, if nursing is what you want, and you start out undecided, you would need to start over as a freshman. They typically do not allow you to transfer into nursing programs because it is so demanding, and the course schedule is pretty rigid.
Yeah, it's pretty set for all of your time.
But other than that, you can, and quite honestly, there's some students that maybe they don't have what a particular program requires. Like I just recently told my class a story about a kid a couple years ago during the pandemic. It was one of our top students applying to Penn early decision. And the rep, you know those things about tell me you're from Philadelphia without telling me you're from Philadelphia? So basically he couldn't say to me, this kid's not gonna get in with this major, but if he picks this major, he will. So we walked around ways of him basically telling me that. So then it was, the student would not get in if he kept engineering as his major because it was a very competitive year. And he said, but in his essay, he alluded to liking computer science. He's like, he would have a really good chance if he got it, if he changed it to computer science. So I had to talk with the kid, and without telling him that you won't get in if you keep it engineering, but you will, he wound up changing his major to computer science and he got in. So sometimes some majors are a little bit more competitive than others. And we have had students who maybe don't have what particular major, engineering, computer, they're looking for right then. So then you go in undecided. You prove yourself, you do well there, and then you can transfer into the program, kind of get in a back door.
Yeah, like with the exception of nursing, that is true.
Yes. I heard a comment about a college essay that was due on Friday. Friday is in tomorrow or last week. My child is advising he doesn't know anything about the essay. I will say, you mean tomorrow?
So, I mean tomorrow, but I do know that that was the English 4 classes. So if the student is in AP, they might not have that deadline. So the English 4 classes had that deadline, right? But AP may
The
have.
Compo Mark?
I think it's
Anybody here have
and
Compo Martin?
Paulus.
Did she talk about it?
Okay, so
Okay.
Compo was last week, Paulus is tomorrow. I'm not sure when Ms. D is.
What's the acronym for FAFSA? I can't see well. I did type that in there. I'm sorry, what?
FIA. The
Oh,
Pennsylvania
what is
Higher
the
Education-
acronym for FAFSA? I mean, for FIA?
Yeah.
It is Pennsylvania Higher,
Education.
whoopsie, Education, something. Somebody pull that up for me really quick. Pennsylvania Higher Education, something assistance.
Yeah, 8
Some,
assistants, maybe, let's see.
something assistance. It's an A assistance. Can't remember. Yeah, okay, so yeah, we got free application for federal student age. Are the counselors providing information? We're going to come back to the FIA as soon as we get that. Are the counselors providing information regarding college tours? So yes, we have talked, it's in announcements often about the tours that we do. We do not have college tours like Get Buses. We cannot, we don't have the money, the school district won't provide them. And in all honesty, the colleges, the school district is a challenge to work with from an insurance perspective. We used to always go to Kutztown, and now it's just like getting the insurance, and they don't approve, they only approve certain buses, and they're not buses that the college has a contract with, and it's this whole kind of thing. So it's,
So, okay, FIA is the
Pennsylvania Higher Education
Assistance Agency. In terms of college bus trips,
There we
Penn
go.
State has a trip, East Stroudsburg has a trip, Kutztown has a trip. They're not our trips. So basically, if students show interest, the reps from those schools will tell students where to meet the bus. So it's usually like 30th Street or Broad and something. Like they usually send buses from different parts of the city, and they take the kids up for a day. Yes, we do. We have.
they have to get, if there are some trips next week, I feel like it's UArts, Temple, and they have to come down and get a permission
LaSalle.
slip. A trip slip.
Yes.
Yep.
LaSalle was the third one.
LaSalle, there you
Yes.
go. Are parents able to get the schedule for college rep visits? I would encourage everyone to have your child log into Naviance, and you will see. We do put them on the school calendar. The college rep visits are on the school calendar, or you can go into Naviance, and when you click on your, for my students that are here, on your home page in Naviance, if you scroll down, it says what's new, and it'll have in there the upcoming college reps that are coming, the visits that are scheduled in there. That's awesome. We teach kids about budgeting. Good, I'm glad you think so. Any information and discussion regarding community service? So we used to require
Google Play.
community service hours. We switched that to community engagement hours. So it became, for lots of reasons, a lot of places weren't really allowing kids to come in and do community service. So we switched it to community engagement, which would be, you could go to a school function and support your peers, and that would count towards community engagement. So as well as things you were doing like out, you know, in your church or in your community and that kind of stuff. When the pandemic came, we did away with that simply because we weren't doing any of those things, and we have not reinstituted it as yet. It is a discussion on the table, but it used to be you had to do
20 or 25 community service hours.
yeah, but then when we got to the community engagement, it was, Ms. Bond,
certain amount
how
of
many
quarter,
community
right?
engagement things did we need to have? She was in charge of it.
Was it 4 a quarter?
When we did community engagement? Right. So it was 20 community engagement hours per quarter, it used to be. But like I said, I mean, that involved a lot of different opportunities for kids to do, and it was really to encourage them to be part of our community. Folks that I know we're leaving out, just make sure you guys all signed in. Por favor.
Does anyone in here have questions? I don't have the date, but when this is over,
Well,
I'll
I
go
think we can
grab
grab
a
the paper.
permission slip.
Are you coming to sign in? Thank you. Any good programs or internships for gap year? Oh, I'm gonna come back to that one. The question before that was, can an 11th grader take SATs October 12th? They cannot take it here in school on October 12th. The School District of Philadelphia is paying for it, and they will not pay for an 11th grader to take it. We have fee waivers for juniors, but we will not have them in effect for them until March, because the juniors can't get SAT fee waivers until they take the PSAT and the College Board processes that. So they will not be eligible to use a fee waiver until March. If anyone other than a senior wants to take the SAT prior to that March, if you're a junior, you would have to pay for it in order to do it. So good programs or internships for gap years. We talked a little about City Year, Job Corps. There's another one, AmeriCorps. There's another one that a student just brought to me that's new for me, and I need to learn about it. And it's called Year Up, not Gear Up, Year Up. So I need to do some homework about that one. I don't know what it is, but it is definitely a gap year program, and it's something that continues to help students. Like, it is an educational piece to it, as well as some college support and things like that, and working in the community, but I need to do some homework on that. All right, Sharp put in the things, FAFSA free education or community services that needed. So no, as of right now, community service is not needed. We are revisiting that. Hopefully we will bring it in. We are saying Naviance, Naviance. That is correct. That is what we were saying about that. I understand school is no longer requiring community service. However, I'm sorry. Community service is a requirement for the colleges. Does it help the students be more marketable, higher chance to get accepted? I have never seen a school require community service.
No, and I think just generally colleges are more concerned with just general what activities do you do. Is it community service or is it something else? It could be an after-school club. It could be, in a run club or something. I'm not sold on the idea that they think you have to do community service. They just want you to be involved.
Right.
They want to know that when you come to college, you're not just going to go to class and go back to your dorm. What else are you going to participate in? How are you going to help contribute to the community at the university? So I think it's just more about actually having activities that you do. It doesn't necessarily
To be well-rounded.
In service.
Yeah.
Yes.
The colleges want people who are they want students who are more well-rounded, who are going to come to their school and contribute to their community. That's what they want. Bookworms not needed to apply. I mean, we have students get accepted to schools, and we're sometimes surprised by it. But here they have this whole other piece that we had not known that they're doing at the community, and they're doing all this stuff, community service, that they're working at, or in addition to sports, in addition to whatever. In addition to, we tell all the students, as do all the reps, when you're doing your applications, you work, put that on your applications. You aren't able to play sports and get involved in things in school because you have some responsibilities at home, caring for younger siblings, because maybe you work and they need to go pick up the kids because you're not able to. Put that in there. Schools take all of that into consideration. What they don't want is someone to oh, this is me. What did you do? Nothing. Did you work? Nope. So you didn't work. Did you have responsibilities at home? Nope. You didn't have responsibilities at home, and basically you went to school, did your classes, and then went home. That does not look good on paper to a college. That's not someone that they're necessarily going to be like, yeah, please come to our school. They want people that are more and more well-rounded. Okay. Here we go. Thanks again for your help. I will reach out to my son's counselor to ask other questions because the sound. All right. Well, who's your son's counselor? Because the sound was hard to hear. Sorry about that. I appreciate you guys having the meeting. I did take note on what I could hear. All right. We apologize for the sound, folks. Truly, we are. It's a work in progress for us, and we were like, hey, let's try and do this. Let's try and do it live, and let's try and do it Zoom. We know that parking sucks down here, and so we do want to try and have opportunities for people who want to come. We like in person. We do. I mean, although I like being at my home and being Zooming, but I enjoy engaging with people. But we know that it is very challenging for people. So we do want to try and continue having some of the technology in place, and we'll get better at it, I promise. Did I mess up? No. We will get better at doing that and trying to get the sound and things like that. Like I said, it's a work in progress. Questions? Any of you guys have any more questions? Please.
As far as essays, do they have to have one standard essay that they can upload
certain colleges?
They have to, so they do both. So it's a standard essay, but if the college has something that they require that's exceptional, then
More
they
questions?
have to do that.
Okay, so I guess my question is, can they have multiple standard
Where should I answer this?
geared to like different colleges?
Oh, out
Sure, I
loud?
mean, it sounds like it
Oh,
would make
okay.
more work for them, but if that, yeah, there's no harm in it.
Okay, but they can like, they have the option of switching what
Okay,
essays goes to
okay.
what college.
So for the general writing supplement on Common App, no. Once you pick it and you add it, that is the supplement. But because a lot of schools basically, so the Common App tab is like all basic general information, including the essay. And then the
One essay.
colleges have what they
A
call
choice
like,
of 5, though.
and then there's a questions tab. And then the questions tab, that's where they ask like either another essay question or like a brief questionnaire. It depends on what the college is and what they're looking for. Like when she mentioned like some schools will, they give you this big fluffy.
There's like
lofty-
a quote from St. Thomas
Yeah.
Aquinas for
So we believe
Villanova.
in
And,
unitas
St. Thomas
caritas
Aquinas
veritas.
says blah, 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 blah.
What does that mean to you? You like,
Yeah.
I don't know, let me Google this and now let me write about it, right? So there are like both. So like the standard one and the supplement.
I just know for like even like the high school applications, we got a little in depth as far as like for instance, if we was applying to Hampton, I would say, oh, Virginia, like make it specific to where it says school.
Oh,
Or,
right.
You guys have a great whatever program. I'm just hoping that she'll have the option to like switch it to another school.
So the general one, no, because Common App has its own specific questions. So it's like one of 6 questions and the essay is not like gonna be geared to that. But when you write the supplement, yes. And we always tell our kids to like leave that space blank because you don't know how many times we look at a kid who's like, Hampton is my first choice to Howard.
Right. That's my
It's like, because so, you leave it blank, you fill it in as you go along so that, you are not running into those kinds of mistakes. But yes.
We do encourage the students, A, to visit their schools, and B, make sure they meet their admissions people. Because when push comes to shove, and you want some more money, squeaky wheel gets the grease. And it is best when they know who you are, right? I tell everybody this story. My very first year here, back in 2009, my first day, a young man came in my office, and I was in your office those days, and he came in my office, and he rattled off to me all these schools he wanted to apply to, and he wanted to be aeronautical engineering. And I was like, oh, okay. I wrote them all down. He had like 5 schools. He leaves out, and it was funny. I remember him because I walked in. I said, "What up, Chuck?" And he looked at me. He goes, "How do you know my name?" His name was Charles. I had no idea, but it's why I always remember him. And he gave me this whole thing. And so he leaves, and then I do a little research. And I said to my colleagues at the time, I was like, "Yo, this kid came in. He's not getting in there. Like, this is such a reach." Do you know that he got into every one of those schools? And he got into every one of those schools for a multitude of reasons. A, they all knew him on a first name basis. He made sure of it because he made himself known to those admissions people, and he had done a whole bunch of programs in the summer specific in aeronautical stuff. So he had absolutely demonstrated that this is something he is interested in. And so he was able to demonstrate to them like, hey, yes, this is what I wanted. He got into all 5 of those schools. And truly, all 5 of those schools were a reach for him. But when you get that rapport and it comes down to now you got to pay the money, sometimes so the schools dole out all their financial aid, right? And now, so what is, let's say everyone in here applies to Temple and everyone in here gets a financial aid packet. Here's the thing. Everyone in here isn't going to Temple. Everybody who gets accepted gets a financial aid packet. So once we get to the point where people say, okay, I'm not going there, I'm going over here, some of that money sometimes goes back into a pool. And that's where them knowing you becoming like, hi, I really want to go to your school, to your admissions person, and getting them to know who you are, that squeaky wheel gets the grease. They know that, yes, you are definitely a student who wants to come here. You're like, is there any way I could possibly get some more money? And sometimes we've had students kind of revisit that and be able to get a better financial package that way. Are you reading these questions?
Yes. So there was a question, is it a good idea to always research professors before choosing?
I assume that that's your classes in college.
So
I literally just said this in class yesterday.
So my advice would be yes, but take it with a grain of salt. Different personalities, different strokes, different folks. I definitely had that experience at Villanova where I like read, they have teacher reviews, professor reviews, and it was like, don't take this class, she's racist. And I was like, but it fit in my schedule perfectly, so I took it anyway, and I learned she was racist. So, it happened. So, like, yes, it's definitely good to do the research, but also take it with a grain of salt. Because I also read reviews about other professors that said, like, you know, this person is this and that, and I love those classes. Like, one of my favorite professors at Villanova was Caddo, who students would be like, this class is hard, you do so much work. You did do a lot of work. It was a hard class, but the professor was awesome. I didn't mind it.
I think we covered this. Is it okay if I don't know what I want to major in when starting off? Yes. We talked about undecided. That's a good way to do. Sometimes you're either undecided, sometimes it's undeclared, sometimes it's just general liberal arts would be your major.
Is it okay if I don't know?
I just said that.
Oh. So CCP will give me a second chance when it
Absolutely.
comes to academic
I was
records.
going to say, wait a minute. This is who's writing these things in the Seymour. Yeah, second, the thing about CCP is it's your new lease on life. If you go to college and have college courses, that not so great high school transcript is not going to have as much weight anymore. Because now they've seen that you are capable of doing college level work. And that has a greater weight. Because the same thing about SATs. If you don't do well on the SATs, and so maybe you didn't get into the school you want to go to, you go to CCP. The purpose of SATs are a predictor of how you'll do in college. If you're already taking college courses, we don't need the predictor anymore. We need the courses that are in there. So that is definitely a help. Tell them about the Caddo Scholarship.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, Mr. Moore, it's okay for you to come in and talk about
Is that
CCP.
on the scene who went here?
I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Good private college.
The Caddo Scholarship is a scholarship at CCP where you don't have to apply, they automatically consider you for it. It's students in Philadelphia, and it's a full scholarship to CCP. Did we get anybody get the Caddo last year?
Yes,
I think
we
we
did. We had 4 students get it.
Caddo, C-A-T-T-O. It's after Octavio.
Yeah, Octavius.
Octavius Caddo. And then gap year, like I said, we got to do a little bit.
So as long as you meet like the GPA requirement, but it's a financial component. So your family's expected college contribution has to be under a certain number.
I'm a little confused. The last question, it says, can you recommend a good private college counselor? My other son goes to a small school and they don't have any resources to support the college search in LA. Looking at the last name, if that is Mateo's straight Cortez, feel free to email me directly and I'll help you out.
Any other questions?
The information's universal. Listen, I got my next door neighbors to watch my dogs tonight, and she said, I'll do it under one condition. Are you going to share with me that college info night? Because she is a 10th grader. She goes, you're going to do that college info night presentation at my house next week.
Go ahead.
We never think like that.
It was such a good idea. So I don't think they do it in English class.
We sort of do it as a fun thing.
Yeah, we don't make them do an essay.
They make like a slideshow.
Yeah, we do a slide presentation.
And it's a party because then they play their song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So they do
It's like
it.
4
and-
slides.
Yeah, they show us. It's
Not
like,
tough.
so it's like, what college did you go to? And they like, oh, I went to.
Or where
such
are you
and such.
going?
Yeah, I was a Temple Owl. And then they like post Temple stuff. And it's like, okay, so what did you do? Well, I graduated. I got a car. I bought a house. I make $1 million. I'm married. I got 1.5 kids and a dog. Like, I mean, they are really elaborate, but it's hilarious. But it's also nice to see where our kids see themselves and like that the track is positive.
Nah, they do it. It's the last thing we do in capstone. It's like an end of the year kind of fun sort of thing that we do. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What's the GPA requirement for scholarship for Caddo?
For Caddo?
I think can also, hold on 1 second, I can give you the link. Like if you start to Google it, it'll pop right up with all of the like,
Yeah, if you do Caddo,
eligibility.
CATTO Scholarship, CCP, all the information is in there. I do not recall what the GPA requirement was. But like I said, there's definitely a financial requirement to it in terms of families, like it's need-based.
Yeah.
You know, but listen, CCP, you can go a year at CCP for $5,000.
9.
9, it's a semester.
Yeah. About
You know.
9,000, maybe 9,500.
You're not gonna find that anywhere.
Which is about
Anywhere.
how much financial
CCP.
aid you'll get from the federal government.
Is that CCP? I don't think it is on the trip list, as a matter of fact.
But we can talk
Well,
to
we can-
Mr. Johnson and ask him to get it on the list.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. Looking to see, is there any, Ms.
It
Bond,
is.
are there any more? It is on the list?
Melissa said it is
Oh,
on
look
the
at that. Ms. Bond, are there any more,
I think that was it.
is it okay, am I able to come in and talk about CCP? Absolutely, positively. Come on, make an appointment. We had a Nassim Moore who graduated from here.
I don't remember, but I don't know if that's the same one.
I don't know, I'm curious. Because it's, you know. Oh, so they did say the Caddo Scholarship will pay for their tuition if they have an expected family contribution of less than $8,000. That's when you do the FAFSA, you'll get the EFC, the expected family contribution, and many, if not most of our students have an EFC less than $8,000.
Yeah, it's basically what the federal government has determined you could put towards your kids' education.
Ms. Bond, I don't have the Zoom thing back. Do we get all our questions? Are we good?
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Anything else?
That's our spiel. Thanks
That's our
for
show.
coming.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for being patient with us, both you guys on Zoom and the
live
other
stream.
thing, the live stream, and you guys as well. Like I said, we'll work out the kinks. You have another kid. Come back in a couple years. We'll have it all down by then.
I asked like 20 questions already.
No, it's fine.
I just wanted to say, can I just send you an email and just say, hey,
Yes.